Hi everyone, it's Jen from Mind's Eye, and we're going to do part two of Madame LaLaurie and Marie Laveau, the psychic medium deep dive on, the serial killer and the voodoo priestess. You can't even see it. You say priestess, you say, and they're already angry with me because I did not identify it correctly. But in reality, it's so hard to even go and get going. You can't even get it doing. So already, like this energy of those two down there in New Orleans, after what happened and what we've actually discovered to the highest extent of all, of, the Rosetta Stone to agriculture to um, the recent jailbreak that happened with 10 inmates, that you can't even see it coming. You can't even see it coming. I can't even believe it. I have to say, like, what is true and what is not. So where we left off was about how we literally couldn't even see this whatsoever. They were flinging energy so hard and they were so strong and powerful. And you didn't know where they got their power and where it came from. And it was something like natural, where you couldn't get it off the train and you couldn't get it from anywhere else down the line. They would just go, and all of a sudden you got a stick onto you and you didn't know where you got recruited. You literally couldn't. And so when you actually have someone who was independent of color, like Marie Laveau, and then you had Madame LaLaurie, who was a slave owner, who was accused highly of murdering her slaves heinously, viciously, covered in blood, to the point where it made American Horror Story to a degree. You couldn't even believe like how bad this was. But was she like exonerated? What was it? So as we're going back and how mediumship and energy is guiding it, we're actually going to try to sit there a little bit. Right now it's stagnant there. It's almost like a pepper type of taste in the mouth. And you want to do that, and you almost want to like sit back. But what they're showing me was the cobblestones to the kick up of the tick up. And then when I actually, looked yesterday, which was on the 22nd, and today is May 23rd, that you couldn't even see Salem witch trials on how the cobblestone went to where people would trip and they would know everything was happening. This was like working together, this Three of Pentacles down there when it happened. When you see the 10 of Wands, you can't even believe how hard it was to literally have an alleviation of struggle, to where everyone was happy in the town, in the city. So when you see the Seven of Wands, it really was this like hard burden where nobody was getting any messages. When you see the Mother of Cups in reverse, to attunement, to alignment, it was dictative to a write out. And we were seeing tariffs yesterday with it. So when I see the Strength card and you go, where did this weakness come from with the Strength card in reverse? It caused such a pause with the Hangman. You can't even believe it. The Seven of Swords is going to come in, and it's not going to be a steal. It's not going to be a steal. They literally had to work everything about being like hoodoo, voodoo, juju, to a type of Creole magic, to any form of magic, curses, spells, hexes, like working of energy with that High Priestess card, and sitting and like uploading and downloading and gaining and gathering energy, that you had to actually say the Mother of Swords. It went to the point where like it doesn't have any logic. It's counterintuitive. So when I see the Mother of Wands, they did not sit well. They did not sit well. They sat solid, hard, and ready, obtaining energy. So bad. that you couldn't even see it. Letter C, you couldn't teach anyone. All of a sudden, by a September, October, they're showing around 1839. You couldn't do anything. You're on your own. You're on your own. You basically look like you're unhappy. When you look to the Wheel of Fortune, it's all luck, to where they actually would do magician work. Witchcraft is different from magician work because of luck, because of love, because of what's in their well, which is in their torso, the way that they regenerate and reproduce, like positive energy, soft energy. It's hard to explain what magicians actually do, because I was always like taught, don't talk about it, but let's talk about it. A magician is someone who can love a well. So basically they can donate proper, like, immunity and energy, and help someone heal and slow them down. Like, they're so strong naturally that they've never, like, in another lifetime, like, they're in whatever has happened to them has healed, and they retained it into the next life, even as little kids. That's why they're rare. They're rare. So when you actually doing, like, I'm doing well, it's really rare for them to actually do it. Now, witchcraft, they do have their gaff. Their gaff is what has, like, cut them down to their soul, where they can do energy work. So when you see the Son of Cups in reverse to the Empress, you go, holy cow. In reverse, there was nothing well about them. They were so ill, so stoic, sour, and heinous at that point that even a magician was like a hard rock on. A hard rock on magician is like stone. So evil, heinous, that they actually turn in a direction where they can't even do. 10 of Swords in reverse, it did alleviate things. It really did. So let's actually dig a little bit better, because when you see this 10 of Pentacles, they lost inheritance. They lost reticence. They lost property, all forms of that meaning, because of what they do and did. And what we saw in another video that we were able to dig and deep dive into, that Abraham Lincoln and John Wilkes Booth, and the way that Fort Sumter played out with his wife, they had to watch the behaviors of everyone in the morning. If it was off, done. But you could hear him, audibly hear him through and through from Washington, D.C. down south. He could communicate long range. You couldn't believe it at all when it came through in mediumship. But the Daughter of Wands, it was like young offers to get started like that. Here we go. So mediumship, they don't want me, like, whatever deck and cards I've used, they don't want me reusing it tonight. And I don't know why. But it's highly occulted. Highly occulted. Because what we had seen, as I, reiterate, with Abraham Lincoln, you saw gold coins, you saw candles at night lit, you saw like everything. You want to, like, oh my gosh, oh boy. They would sit and have acid reflux all day long. Strength. The energy was so strong down there all of a sudden in the current day and time. They want you to go away. They like all of a sudden like they want to go away. So sitting and visiting at certain times of the year down there is not okay. It's showing me it's almost like a continuance on of Civil War. So when I see the Confederate flag and I see the statues and everything and they're fallen and they're being taken down, it's because they won. They won it. So when you see the Page of Wands in reverse, you can't do anything. You gotta sit and you gotta take it and you gotta be a part of it. So when I look at the Two of Wands, fire energy, it fires and blows up. The Knight of Swords, it comes in harsh and quick when you're down there, to where you have to be solid by yourself for a while and get used to it. Four of Wands, it means like when you get together, you have to sit on your porch and be observant. And that is part of your get together because they're probably going to talk to you in another state. The Five of Wands actually is going to say a bit of a struggle, even to the current day and time, because it's not over yet. Whatever it came through, you couldn't even sue or do or boo. It, like you get to the point where they're not even intoxicated and they can do butterfly effect on you. So when you look at it, it's not to be scary, but they're going to see it, they're going to hear it, they're going to feel it first. And that was in 1829. 1829, the Queen of Wands with the Nine of Wands, you're going to sit well, and then you're going to lock it down. Lock it down. Queen of Pentacles, a selling of oneself that was so dishonorable down there, it looked good. It looked good during that time. So where would Abraham Lincoln, with this tree that really agitated him, would relate to Marie Laveau and Madame LaLaurie? Starseed Oracle. Like I see people in their mouth. I see like, whew, fanning themselves all of a sudden. Like they'd be eating and all of a sudden maybe like whatever is cooking there. Like you were like recruited soul gifts and training, and it's time to step up. You just go and visit, and then like, what do you mean you put it in my mouth? Inner authority, intuition, turn your gaze within. Like literally they would make you look within yourself and others to see if they were clear. So when you look at it and you say pave a new path, be the leader you wish you had, you were on your own and you had your own group. You had your own group. Hadarian energy, codependency, boundaries. Literally, they would. They say literally. You can't even. So when you say literally, it was always a play on words. So when you had a kick up of a tick up to the pickup, it meant somebody kicked you. It was time to pick you up and literally go into town because you tripped up. And then as you can see it, action, follow your intuition before it makes sense. Baby steps. The way they walked was so different, you couldn't even see it. So as this man goes down and is talking to everyone in the Civil War, this president, and he's seeing everything, he literally is seeing groups of people of something he recognized. He's showing a little bit. Hidden secrets, lost one, look in the deeper. Oh, something really old had come through. It is something that was passed down to him and others that only he would know about. And it was something about birthing creations, tapestry, life expression. There was some sort of birth of this type of obtaining something out of the blue that you couldn't see it coming. So it's like somebody going up to you that you know that is only for your family to know and saying, how did you know that? Yeah, it was literally soul memories, gifts, and that they had done this before. in history. I'm seeing 1829, 1839 in the year. They're showing me their shoes, like a cobblestone shoe. They're showing me their, when they say knickers, their knickers were not their undergarments. Their knickers were their type of ways of cutting you. They would stare at you for hours and hours and watch. There was a type of addiction down there that was natural for them. When I look at this and I am saying seeing potential, bringing unconsciousness to life, there was like a way of like expressing their mind that was not even a hallucination or intoxication. Man, they could bring out and you could see it. This was like crazy on how it do. And then all of a sudden, everyone would come in. It would say, you're part of a team of souls, call and support. They would call and support all of a sudden. So they're really doing a roundabout on about how Madame LaLaurie was accused of slavery and harming her slaves. And then talking about Abraham Lincoln and what he saw with a tree down there with Marie Laveau. Because as we were talking about in the first video with Marie Laveau, they talked about how she did not harm her slaves. But it was brought to the attention in a comment that it was actually Madame LaLaurie, which was true, had slaves. Visionary, inspired ideas. It really was about absorbing something that was not of themselves. All right. So as I'm doing this, they're showing me right to the left nostril. When you would do that in the Civil War, that meant that something would kick up. And then all of a sudden they say, it was right on my fingertip, young lady. And they would flick it. And it would fly. But it was spelled different. They showed me like slow down. And then all of a sudden, hit. So let's bring out the runes. Strength. Freeze. Instinct. Like you went from 0, all of a sudden, you would sit there and you would literally go, oh my God, I got it. You had psychic, mediumship, intuition, and then 0. You had 0. You were down to instinct, bare bone instinct, and it would flow right through, and they would fill it. It was odd throwing of energy and putting it into you the way they did it, and it was about wealth. It created something. When you see Berkana, it created something within others you couldn't explain, and it was a gift. So when I see this, and I'm seeing the way that energy, you literally had to spin a wheel to a type of bottle relay of a message, and it would be defensive. They're giving a roundabout mediumship. They don't want us to know about this. I hear release all, dem it all, be it all, sow it all, and they would say be, but it would go bay it all today, tonight, right now. And then all of a sudden there'd be a knock on the door and people would be arrested. They couldn't get their ways and their words out where people would stand up. They would do that. And a fight would break out. While they're having a drink. It could be something of like mead. It should be something of like a brew. And it was something so simple when I'm looking at it. It was like true Southern hospitality in the 1800s as you would picture it in the movies. And you would go and see it in torch at night. Torch is like fire water. You would blow, you drink it. It is flammable. It brought a lot of joy. It was art, bazaar, like a carnival. Nadis, it was a type of cutout with energy at night. Like you felt like your eyes were glowing. That was the type of trolling back then. So it wanted me to end with the the wood runes, but literally, that's all I keep hearing. Literally, I feel like it's a fight. Still, a fight. Let's go to the animal spirit oracle. What do we need to know about these things? Because it is something common. We're trying to find that it. Where is that it? So we saw it's bringing to the attention again of it like a puppet, but it was wood in the type of a stick. It would hold that stick and it would command and demand you that would have this cobra come in and stand erect and everything would reach out like this octopus. But when I'm seeing octopus, it really was like go about and they would still reach you in a way that was hard to understand. Firefly literally talks about the lanterns at night. Horse, a game. It's showing me a game. Whenever I see horse and when it's like this, it was a game of a gallop. We've seen it before. Gallop. Bicycle, hit road, hit a bump, and you go over the bars and you gain a win. Bat, you couldn't even believe how hard it was when you see the bat. When you see the bat. You would say the horse and then you see the bat and you would say the game was over. When you see frog, you saw ill coming in. They would all of a sudden start relating to these things of looking at the animals and saying, you're right, the chicken and the turkey and the pig were talking and the owl was heard. That when you saw otter, Native Americans would come in all of a sudden and the vulture would go, where was this in the city? That was a cutout if they saw it. They already knew it. So when I see the bee, it was flow through particle of energy. It was odd. You couldn't even see aura really well, which even someone who practices voodoo should be able to identify aura. All right. Let's go here. Akashic Tarot. And we'll end with there. So I'm seeing the number 80 and I don't know why. And when I don't know why, that literally means it's coming toward me and it's going to sit right on my nose as a psychic medium. Here it is. The Queen of Roses, you couldn't present anything. Everything was a court already. Intricacies in the industry, it had to do with actually what we see of today, of the how military and law enforcement and businesses were built with paper. So when I see like waterfall, I see the flow through of the way that it was communicated. So when you actually are doing your practices and you can't get your resources to your media, to anything of that, to the Queen of Scrolls in reverse, there was nothing that you could obtain even as paper to do whatever you needed to do. And then when you actually see it, the views of the ego, both were. So what would be that instance of those two living in New Orleans had to do with elements? What would being a slave owner, was it indentured servant or was it a slave owner? Something on track. You can't even make it up. We're going to end right there. So with that being said, there was something about will, wisdom, and mind of that energy that you don't know the difference. Was it an indentured servant? Was it a slave? What was the paper? Where was the coins? Where was everything? And they want us to end right there. So with that being said, any questions or concerns, leave a like, a comment, a share is greatly appreciated, and we will talk to you soon.